Hey guys, FRS guy here. Let's do a little update on the supercharger. Here, let's do a quick video on what they don't tell you about the Edelbrock, and so far, just getting out of the box, what I think about it and where I'm at. Yeah, let's do a quick video on what they don't tell you on my impression so far about the Edelbrock Supercharger. First thing is installation is really fairly easy. A lot of the videos make it look harder than what it is, but it's really not too bad. Honestly, you're supposed to have someone help you put it in. I was impatient and just threw it in myself. I had it all apart, had it all ready to go. But it went in pretty easy, actually, not too bad. Are there any hang-ups installing it? Not really. The hardest thing I think I showed you was there's a bolt when you're putting in the radiator in the front. I don't have my grill in there yet. When you're putting in the radiator, this top bolt is a hassle. See that hose? Getting that bolt in and getting that hose clamp in there is really horrible. That's probably the hardest part of it. The next hardest part of it is if you can see this cable, see your power cable back here, it goes over that ear. So you have to loosen up this bracket that holds this whole cable in, and then get a big screwdriver and pry that cable back. I don't think that's in the instructions. That is, you can see how those cables run right over the ear of the supercharger. Once you figure out how to do it, and then you loosen it up enough, it actually isn't that bad, but figuring it out is probably hard. The next hardest part is getting these hose clamps in, because you have to put your supercharger in, and then you have to connect those hoses. In hindsight, maybe you can put them on first. I don't know. I was able to get them in, but man, it was hard. That was hard too. So those are the three hardest parts: putting in those hoses, getting that ear of the supercharger in, and then getting that bolt and that hose clamp on in the front. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. Here's your little relay over here. That's easy. I routed my wires behind the fuse box to have less clutter up here. That's about it. Pretty easy. I think in my video I said I'd remove the alternator, which I did because it makes it easier to put it on. But once you set it into place, you have to put your alternator back on first and then put the supercharger in. Because it's like impossible to get the alternator. See how close this is? See how tight this is? That's why they have you leave this alternator on there, because it's almost impossible to get it in there once the supercharger's on. So you have to put the supercharger, if you want, it's easier to put it in place with it off. Maybe you don't really need it out of the way at all. Maybe I was just being over dramatic, but I wanted to get in there and paint and clean things up anyways. That was about it. I did replace the pulleys. Your idler pulley, you definitely want to replace your tensioner for sure. On a supercharger, always replace your tensioner, 100%. Don't, if it's over 20,000 miles, probably get a new one. Just don't mess around. And then the idler pulleys, you might as well replace them. If it's less than 30,000 miles, maybe not. Any more than that, just replace them. I still have to get a better belt. I'll probably get like a Gates belt. Because this is probably going to be enough power for a while. What else on installation? I think that's it. For installation, that's pretty easy. The only thing I don't like is this mess of harnesses. What they do is they put a jumper in here, Edelbrock. You could put that jumper and make this cable longer, so you can hide these wires underneath the supercharger and just have one wire coming up, so it's a nice clean installation. Like, see how this is just one wire coming up? You could just have one wire coming up here. It'd be much cleaner. That's kind of the only thing I don't like that they did. I don't like that. Impressions so far. I think people explain how they like it and how good it is. no one explains how much power that this thing actually produces. You hit a higher RPM, it is crazy. On my car, at least with my tune, she's hitting hard. Now with the stock tune that comes with it, it's probably more mellow and sedated. Okay, but with my tune, which is probably 95% there, it is crazy. You start hitting 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, you hit that higher load. It's kind of like in relation to your throttle pedal. You start going over, you start getting a half throttle, it just starts spinning like insanely, and it's cold. I get that, it's cold, but I do have the stickiest tires you can get. I only have a 225 on them, you know, but I do have the Michelin's on there, right? Sport 4S's. You can't get any better than that without going to the cup tire. And at this temperature, those track tires aren't going to work at all either. This is really the best tire you can have on there. I mean, it's going to warm up. We gotta wait till summer. But right now, these tires don't even come close to doing the job. It just spins insanely. You do have to have a better fuel pump. One thing they don't tell you with these Edelbrocks is they can say, oh, it just goes on stock and don't worry. No, you need a better fuel pump. So if you're getting one, at least at a minimum, you have to get a better fuel pump. That would be the minimum criteria. If you are putting exhaust or want to make, or are going to put an aftermarket tune on it, you're going to need injectors too. The stock fuel system will not supply this supercharger. Stock fuel system won't supply E85. So if you're going E85 or boosted, you need a fuel pump. If you're going boosted, I would get injectors. If you're going to do more mellow tuning, probably under 300 horse, just keeping it chill, probably the 400cc injectors are enough. But honestly, the 700s are the same price. So far, it runs absolutely perfect. I think it runs much better than stock with the 700cc's. There's absolutely zero issues. It's more responsive and runs better with those. So if you're going to pursue, just get the 700s, throw them on. They're the same price. Be done with it. One mod, and you can have up to 350, 400 horse. And if you don't need it, you have more headroom than you need. And then plus your direct injectors aren't maxed out. So they only have, direct injectors only have so much capability. They can only produce so much. And then you need to fill in the rest with the port injectors. So they don't tell you that you need a fuel pump. That fuel pump is mandatory. And then injectors are second mandatory. Then after that, you're going to be set. Okay. Do you need exhaust with this supercharger? Probably not. The exhaust is probably overkill. That's probably why I'm spinning like crazy. If you're going to put a supercharger on it, just get yourself a good catback. Like if you're planning out this build. Like one of the nicest things about this car is that they're cheap. Let's say you want to do a good build. You want to build, 300 horse maybe. 250, 300 horse, have a car that handles amazing, and you want the instant power. You get this Edelbrock, you get your fuel system sorted out. You don't have to go crazy on the exhaust. You could probably just do a catback and call it a day. I personally would probably get a header. Do you need the mid pipe? Maybe, maybe not. For maximum power, you need the full exhaust, but okay. What else don't they tell you? They don't tell you this is really, for normal driving, it's fairly tame. Like at 2,000 and like below 2,500, there's more power, but you don't really feel it. You're at lower timing, you're at lower fuel air ratio, so it's really kind of mellow on your day-to-day driving. I think I'm going to get about the same mileage. It's taken me forever to run the winter gas out of it, so I think my mileage is decent, but we'll find out once I get it going. So I'm going to think low 20s for normal driving. But once you start hitting, but the power comes on instant. It's like related to throttle. So does it make a ton of power at 2,000 RPM? Well, at part throttle, no, but as soon as you start hitting like 40% throttle, it just starts coming on. Like once you get your load higher to the 150 load, it just takes off. So it's like, it's hard to explain how hard it hits. But once you start getting on the gas, like you hit the half throttle, you got tons of power. You got twice the power you used to have. So it's crazy. And that's probably at 3,000-4,000 RPM. It just comes on. So the supercharger, when you get on it, it just takes off, and when you're just chilling, it's really not. It's almost, honestly, because of the Edelbrock, you expect a little more low end out of it, but you could probably tune that. You could probably try to max out your timing. You could probably add more fuel so it runs richer at lower RPM, but then you're going to lose your gas mileage and things like that. So trying to be somewhat eco-friendly. I don't want to go crazy on my fuel air ratio at low RPM. I want to keep it kind of clean. I'm running flex fuel, which runs much cleaner. So I'm trying to watch out for the environment when I'm just cruising around. Why dump gas in there? But the part throttle performance would probably be better. The supercharger definitely likes more fuel. It hates being at 14-to-1 fuel air ratio, I'll tell you that. You start getting the 12-to-1, you can really feel the difference. That I don't have sorted out yet, but I'm going to think it's going to be somewhere between 11.5 to 12-to-1. It'll be the happy zone for this supercharger, my guess. I think for normal driving I'm fine. I think the D-Box, you probably need one of those. I'm going to say you do. I can notice, here's your mass airflow sensor here. They do all this stuff to help smooth out, but this rotors, when they turn, it creates a pulse. It's like, what. That's what's happening. And this sensor is going crazy in there. It's going, what. So this sensor doesn't know what to do. It's going, what. And then that sensor is like pulsing the gas. I can't verify it because I'd go look at my map yet, my data log from today. But that's why I think my fuel air ratio is jumping erratic. Like when you hold steady at half throttle, and it's spinning and everything too, and the traction control is trying to come on, so who knows, the computer's trying to do 10 things at once. So it's when you're spinning like that, this car it freaks out. So, but I still feel that I'm not getting a steady signal out of there. It looks steady on the chart. It looks pretty steady. It doesn't look like it's going crazy, but the fuel is all over. But again, my pump was maxed out, so that could be part of that. I'll have to look at my data logs from today. But it sounds like that D-Box is probably on the works. If my data log today is messed up at all, I'm just going to order it because we're on shutdown. Hopefully I can get it in. So that's really the couple things they don't tell you. It does go in fairly easy. A lot easier than you're going to think. That's really, the installation's not that hard. The performance is good. People say it's good, but they don't really explain it. It's like at part throttle, it's really kind of chill. Almost disappointing in the way. It depends on how you have it tuned. But once you start hitting that 3,000-4,000 RPM, you have tons of power, and it's crazy power. It's crazy how this supercharger can literally throw the car around. I have good suspension on here, and I can drift this thing around. The roundabouts, I can drift around those roundabouts and do all kinds of crazy stuff. I've got the KWs on here. I got it pretty tight for handling. I got 18-inch wheels, low profile tires. So it's pretty tight for handling. And coming out of that roundabout, the one time, it just literally threw the car and picked the whole rear end up in the air. So this supercharger, it kind of throws the car around a little bit, and I have good suspension. You have stock suspension on, you might want to drive more chill going around turns and things, because once you start, you're in second gear at 4,000 RPM, she's got a shit ton of power, a lot of torque. She's going to throw the car around quite a bit, so you got to be aware of that. And I have big sway bars, bigger one in the front. I have an 18 in the back, which is almost maxed out. I think you can go to a 20, but an 18 on this car is a pretty big sway bar in the back. And it just flexed the rear end like it did have a sway bar on at all. I was like, wow. So I have to get used to the power. I've tuned and worked on built cars for a long time, but I haven't had a car like a 12-second car for a long time. So this is like my first. I've had bikes, but a bike is completely different dynamics. I had a race bike, so I had race suspension on it and everything, and you could pin the throttle on that, everything would just be nice and behaved. This does not have race suspension on it. It has good suspension on it, but yeah, it might need some work after upping the power. So that's the one thing they don't tell you too, is now when you're in the roundabouts and driving around like that, you have to be a little more careful because you have a lot more torque. And it's really responsive. It's going to kick around, jump. The car's going to throw around on you. So probably at first have both hands on the wheel, chill out, and don't go right to the floor. Like ease into stuff. You get this on there. I don't even think I haven't been to the floor yet. I'm still verifying my tune. Once I know my tune is safe, then I can go start doing some hard pulls. But right now it's spinning. I hit half throttle, it spins all the way through third gear, so there's really nothing to tune or check at full throttle yet. There's no way to even test at full throttle unless I go on a dyno. But that's it. So some of the things they don't tell you, my impressions, and so far I like it. I think it's great. I think I'm glad I went with the Edelbrock. I think that's it. So that's my experience so far. Easy installation, great power. I did not use the stock tune, so I don't know how that runs. I'm going to say it runs kind of eh. But if you don't want crazy power, like this supercharger can get you into crazy power, because now I'm to the point where I spin nonstop. If you don't want crazy power, that factory tune is probably a good combination. Let's get that factory tune, put a cap back on it, call it a day. You have 250 horse, it runs good, you're going to have lots of torque. It's probably not a bad combination, but you know that you have another 100 horsepower once you want to unlock it. That's all I got. That's all I got.